Thank you for everyone for joining us today. My name is Mary Jo Denoff, and I'm your host today for the ACT Industry Connections. Today, our guest is John Bailey, who represents Arts People. And if you're not familiar with Arts People has been a partner with ACT since 2015, and they are pretty much an all-in-one ticketing software, from tickets to fundraising, development, membership, class registration, volunteer information. It's all encompassed. It's an all-in-one spot for you. John himself has got 25 years in live event and ticketing. He's a person that I have always gone to, so I'm kind of excited to be able to be here with him today and introduce John. And like we have mentioned, if you have questions, please go ahead and use your Q&A down at the bottom section of your Zoom. Put your questions in there. I bet you 2-1 a lot of questions John's going to answer as we go along, but if not, go ahead and put those in there, and then I believe John's going to take all of those at the end and make sure everyone's all set. So go ahead, John.
Awesome. Thank you for that introduction, Mary Jo, and thank you everyone for being here today. Like Mary Jo mentioned, we've been partners with ACT since 2015. In fact, that was when we did ACT Fest in Grand Rapids, where Mary Jo was the host theater. And that was where I got to meet a lot of the fine folks from ACT in person for the first time. And of course, I've known my good friend Jill Patchen for many years, and excited to get a chance to do this for all of you today. Karen, if I just go ahead and click share screen, do I need to do anything special with that, or is that just going to go ahead and do it?
Nope, it should go ahead and do it.
All right, cool. So I'm going to go ahead and, by the way, bear with me. My PowerPoint skills are subpar, but we're going to go ahead and do this today anyway, because I figured, normally what I do is something, akin to a product demo, but we've only got 30 minutes today and I wanted to cover a lot of ground. So I'm going to go ahead and put out, let me see if this is going to work here now. Yeah, there we go. So this is just, again, Mary Jo covered some of this, but just so you kind of know who I am. So it's 23 years that I've been in the ticketing industry, give or take. I'm a former Ticketmaster and Extreme Ticks employee. I was one of the original Vendini employees as well. And that's actually one of the things I want to talk about today, because I know that in the COVID-19 community theater group on Facebook that ACT set up, which I think has been a really incredible resource for so many theaters during this time. As we all know, Vendini is being shut down, and a lot of people have had questions about that. So I thought I'd use a little bit of today to kind of address some of the Vendini users out there and kind of give you sort of an apples to apples comparison from someone who's actually been on both sides of that. I am a former box office manager, and I think that comes through in a lot of what I do, because I am a self-proclaimed ticketing systems geek. But I also am occasionally an actor and a fight choreographer. And I mention that only because with Arts People, one of the things that you'll find is that, we're not just a software solution for arts organizations. We really don't come by the name Arts People lightly, because everyone in our company has some kind of a background in the arts. So for me, it's been on stage as an actor, but really doing stage combat. And yes, just to toot my own horn, I am a Theater Bay Area Award nominee. Ooh la la. But, just so you kind of know who you're talking to. So wanted to talk about some of the challenges. I mean, 2020 has been a kick in the teeth for everybody on this call, let's be honest, and I wanted to kind of talk about some of the things that are happening during the pandemic. So my next slide here is replacing your ticketing software during a global pandemic. Are you kidding me? 2020. So I wanted to just kind of pay tribute here. These are some of the systems that either have been shut down in 2020 or are in the process of being sunset. And if you're a user or a former user of any of these products, I'd be happy to take any of your questions related to that. Specifically, I do want to address, like I said, the Vendini users that are on here, because it keeps coming up in the forum. So a couple quick things right here. So specifically for the Vendini clients, a couple things that we do that are really different from Vendini. For example, it's a known issue with every single Vendini account about duplicate patron records. And we actually have an automated deduping script that will potentially flag any potential dupes flagged on different criteria, whether it's same name, same email address, same phone number, whatever it be. So we're really proactive about cleaning up your patron database and making sure that that's all automated and smooth for you. A couple other key differences from Vendini. We don't charge you any fees on donations. You just pay the credit card processing, but there's no per donation fee. There's no donation module that you have to pay for. That's actually all included with the software. We also create a custom look and feel purchase interface. So what we do, the term we use is public pages, but that's where we create a purchase interface. It's going to match the look and feel of your theater's website. So there's no third party look and feel. Patrons don't feel like they're leaving your site in order to buy from you. The URL is technically on an Arts People URL, but to the naked eye, it looks like they're just purchasing directly from you, and we can seamlessly match your navigation, your background. And the nice thing is you don't have to lift a finger on that. That's something where we'll actually do all the design work and things like that. So it's really easy for you to go ahead. And then all you got to do is plug in a link. We try to keep it just as simple as possible. We do have a quick door sales screen for walk-up sales. So if you've been using Ticket Agent with Vendini, you know there's a lot of clicks for night of show. This is something that's really just stripped down and built for speed. And honestly, I can't wait for the day when this is going to become something that we're using on a regular basis again, because once we get our doors open and people showing up without a ticket night of show in an actual theater around other human beings, my God, I can't wait for that. It's going to be a great day, right? A couple other differences from Vendini. So the filterable custom reports. So if you've ever done the custom report tool in Vendini, it's kind of like, it's basically a data dump. I mean, you query that database from scratch, they drop a bunch of stuff into Excel file, and you have a lot of kind of extraneous data that lives in that report. We actually give you the ability to go in and add and remove columns and filter and sort data and lay out the report differently within the body of the system before you actually generate the report. And then you can save reports as templates and run them again in future date ranges. So there's a lot of cool functionality around that. Also, we don't charge for comp tickets. So if you're not making money on a ticket, neither are we, which I think is only fair. The last thing I want to talk about, this is something that comes up because, right now I talk to theaters all over the country every day about kind of reopening and what that potentially looks like. And everyone's going to be in a slightly different situation. But the print at home ticket is actually becoming kind of a strategic piece because we do give you that blank canvas where you can really do your own messaging on that. So a lot of theaters have talked about, we want to make sure that people know there's going to be mask requirements. We're going to have, people staggering through the lobby for, whatever time we want them to show up. We can say, hey, just so you know, when you come back, this might look a little different. Or you can also do things like sponsor logos on those print at home tickets. And, right now, I mean, I'm just sort of recognizing the crisis that theaters are in right now. So anything I can do to kind of help you further monetize things, because you can do sponsor logos on that. And at the end of the day, sponsors, there's only really two things they care about. It's getting tickets to the show and it's seeing their logo on stuff. So now this is a great opportunity to give them, stuff and further monetize those tickets that you sell. Just kind of want to walk through a couple of quick differences between us and Vendini, and I'm happy to explore more of that on a product demo, which we can talk about afterwards. Moving on to the next slide here. This is just an example of some of the what we call the public pages interfaces here. So you see, like, this is a really nice subscription. I don't know how well you guys can see this, but there's a subscription package here we're doing with the Cheyenne Symphony. This is a donation page for the Seattle Public Theater. You can see here, this is Cash Arts, which is a big client for us in Utah, where there's a lot of custom messaging around their COVID-19 policies that's all built into their ticket purchase page. And I hope Jamie Ulmer won't mind that I took a picture of his website, because you'll see we can match top down the entire look and feel of the site. Thanks, Jamie. I'm going to go ahead and move along to the next slide here. So, what makes Arts People different? Because there's a bunch of different ticketing companies out there, a lot of different software options. And I want to talk about some of the things. I honestly think some of our success over the last, 15 years has been kind of zigging when other people zag, so sort of taking the different approach. So we don't force you to sign a term contract. You're not signing your life away in order to work with us. And we don't charge monthly fees. So right now, we're sort of operating under a model where once you get started, it's not going to cost you anything until you're ready to really, get started and sell tickets and, take donations and all that. We also don't have a guaranteed revenue clause. And I want to talk about this because this is something, and I'm not going to name the competitors specifically, but there are some products, some systems out there who have these clauses in their contract where you essentially estimate your annual ticket sales. They build in an annual fee. And if you don't meet that sort of level of revenue, they effectively fine you. And that's happening right now with one competitor in particular, who, again, I'm not going to name on this, but I've talked to a lot of theaters who can't open their doors, who are effectively being charged, upwards of 20 grand by their software provider during a season, a quote unquote season where they can't even open their doors. And I just don't think that's a very fair or equitable way to operate. And so we operate very differently based on that. I also want to point out that when it comes to merchant account and credit card processing, so one of the cool things about Arts People is that our parent company, Neon One, has their own proprietary credit card processing tool. And that gives us a lot more leeway on things like payouts. So you can go on our merchant account with no monthly fee, or you can run your own if you prefer, but we put you on a weekly payment cycle. So you don't have to wait until after your shows to get paid. And right now, I know if you've been on the Vendini merchant account, you get your subscription money once those shows have happened. So sometimes they're sitting on your money for months at a time, and they do that 90-day reserve after the show, which messes up everybody's accounting. We kind of take the opposite approach. I mean, again, I like to sort of describe it as we're big fans of artists getting paid. So we like it when you get your money up front. So we just put you on a weekly payment cycle, with our fees backed out, it's all right up front. And then you can, put money back into shows. What a concept. And the other thing I want to talk about is really our system is designed specifically for smaller and mid-sized arts organizations. I mean, community theaters really are kind of our bread and butter as far as our client base goes. And I think you'll see in the system and the product, it's really designed with those types of organizations in mind. And we really do have outstanding support. One of the things that I've noticed, again, with all the comments in the COVID-19 group, was people commenting about how great our support team is. And I mean, admittedly, I'm a little bit biased, but I do think we have the best support team in the ticketing industry. And I stand by that. And again, I think a big part of that is because our support team all have backgrounds in the arts. And I feel like we kind of speak the language of our client base a little bit more based on that. And support is included. So we don't charge you anything for like a number of hours of support or anything like that. And we're really here to kind of meet you where you are in terms of your support needs. So different people have different comfort levels with technology and things like that. And we really do sort of individualize a lot of that support model to really help our clients. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next slide here. So commitment to clients during COVID-19. So I want to just show really quickly a couple of the features that we've rolled out during COVID. So this pay what you can tool is something that a lot of our clients are utilizing right now, because if you're doing, shows, whether that's, a streaming show or a drive-through show or an outdoor show, everybody's doing something that's kind of non-traditional right now. And to be frank, a lot of our clients aren't necessarily sure how to price those types of non-traditional events. So, having this pay what you can model is really great, where you can just set whatever increment you want. A patron can do other and just kind of name their own price. And that's all, built in and really easy to utilize here. Additionally, we built a social distancing tool for seating charts. And I think this is pretty cool. So you'll see here, it's user-defined rules. So what happens here is when a patron selects a seat, you see I've got 2 seats that are selected right here. You can automate the rules to block out the neighboring seats. So you can say like X number of rows and X number of seats in each direction. And every venue might have different protocols and different rules that you want to have in place. So we leave it up to you to kind of set the rules within the body of the system. These seats get blocked out automatically. And it's a great way to be able to just kind of maintain and automate those rules, doing reserved seating. And one thing I kind of caution people about, some people say, oh, well, I think when we're first able to reopen our doors, we'll just do a general admission thing. But I kind of advise against that, because I think if you're going to do general admission and try to enforce social distancing, you're putting yourself in a position where you might have to police your audience in a way that you haven't had to in the past, right? And that's something where, just from a human behavior perspective, I think it's better to kind of have, the rules set. But again, your audience better than we would. So you can do whatever you want, but this is another kind of tool that we built in that I think is really nice and effective. The last thing I want to show you, this is something we pushed out at the beginning of the pandemic. So converting refunds to donations or gift certificates. So back in March, we had obviously, everyone on this call knows they had to start refunding tickets, cancel shows, everything like that. We built in a tool here where our clients could convert those potential refunds into donations to the theater. So you see here, I'm converting that, and I can have all these different funds kind of outlined here. You might even create one just for ticket donations, but it'll, in the system, it'll convert that revenue from being ticketing revenue to donor revenue. The patron can get the appropriate tax credit, and that's all reflected accurately in reporting. You can also do it as a gift certificate where you effectively are issuing store credit for a canceled show. And gift certificates in our system are a true cash value gift certificate. It's effectively a promo code with a cash value on it. But the nice thing about that is, we ran some numbers on it, and since the beginning of the pandemic, we've collectively saved our clients nearly $2.5 million in potential refunds that would have otherwise gone out the door. So that's something we're really proud of, that we know made a difference to our clients. And we really are committed right now. I mean, for the last 6-8 months, like everything we've been doing has kind of been built towards helping our clients get through the pandemic, and really get to the other side of this with an eye towards better days ahead, right? So that's another thing that we've kind of built in here. Moving forward, as Mary Jo said, we really are so much more than ticketing. And I just kind of threw some of these together here, but we do fundraising as well, where you can do unlimited funds and appeals. You can have as many different funds and appeals and campaigns and all that kind of stuff. You can do standalone donations. You can add on a donation to a subscription or a single ticket order of any dollar amount the patron wants. And we can do a suggested increment if you prefer that. And we can set up recurring contributions online. So a donor can come online, set whatever frequency they want for their recurring contributions. And that's all automated through the system. And you're just paying the credit card fees on that, again, with no additional per donation fee or anything like that. On the marketing front, we have some really great tools that are built into the system, particularly in the world of list segmentation. And the terminology is different in other systems, right? Like, for example, in Vendini, the terminology is groups or tags. So with us, the terminology is lists. And that's where you can really segment your patrons, by interest or by shows that they bought or by donor level or, whatever it might be. And then we can create a lot of things that are automated for discounts by those marketing lists. So one of the nice things, and I talk about it a little more below here, but we do have a rules-based pricing engine. So what we can do is we can personalize a lot of things for returning patrons. And what we do is we actually use the patron's email address as a unique identifier, because everybody knows their email address. Not everybody knows, their unique patron ID or whatever, code you want to give them, right? So that's something where they can log in as a returning patron. Their email address will be validated against our internal database, and appropriate discounts can kick in automatically. And that can be everything from automating cast comps or discounts for high volume donors, or if you have a select group of patrons and you want to target them and only them for a particular discount, you can set it up where their email address is on a marketing list. When they log in, their appropriate discount will kick in at checkout with no need for a promo code. So we can automate a lot of really cool things about that with sort of discounts and promotions. We have a great integration with MailChimp and Constant Contact as well. So, a lot of our clients already use them and really like them. And if you have an existing MailChimp or Constant Contact account, you can use our system to really curate your marketing list, create an output that you want, and it'll actually port directly into MailChimp or Constant Contact behind the scenes. So there's no need for a manual import export or anything like that. And we do have a built-in tool as well. It's not nearly as robust as a MailChimp or a Constant Contact. And we're just upfront about that. We have a really simple email tool that's built into the system, but for organizations that want something a little more robust and a little more powerful, we do partner up with these industry leaders, and they've been great partners for us to work with. We can also do things like targeted lists, where you can pull data from the system to generate new marketing lists. So you might say, okay, I want to pull a list of people who have bought, single tickets multiple times during the season, but are not yet subscribers. And now I've got a list of patrons that I can specifically market to try and get them to convert from being, single ticket buyers to being subscribers. Or it might be, I want a list of donors in a date range, or new patrons in a date range, or whatever it might be. These are all things we can kind of just pull and from within seconds, which is another thing we have. You can do simple things too, like generate mailing labels. You can do a mail merge if you want to send out documents and things like that. Just real basic stuff that's there within the marketing system that's fully integrated with ticketing and everything else. We also can do memberships, and I know that that's a super nebulous term from one organization to the next. Membership just just means different things in different places, right? So sometimes it's a formal membership program where you have different membership levels and different membership types and, membership expiration dates. But a lot of times it can also be something where what we maybe internally refer to as a membership is really more like a donor level on your end, where you can say, hey, if you donate X amount, you get certain perks. And if you donate at the $500 level, you get this. If you donate at the $1,000 level, you get these additional perks, kind of like the PBS, tote bag model, right? But it's something where, again, you can kind of accumulate those donations and set up different perks for high volume donors kind of based on that. We also, like I said, it's more than ticketing. We have a great class registration solution as well. And that's something where you can sort of manage age restrictions on that. So like the 10-year-olds and the 15-year-olds aren't necessarily going to be in the same class when mom and dad are registering them online. There's an online waiver signing component to that as well. So you can upload your own waiver, whether that's, an insurance liability thing or a COVID thing or whatever it might be. You can customize that online form. They can just, e-sign it online and then register appropriately. We can manage different household members and automate things like sibling discounts or household member discounts and all that kind of stuff as well. You can segment it where you have like a spring and a fall term, and you can track, how many spots are left and all that kind of stuff. I talked a little bit about rules-based pricing earlier, but I do want to just mention a couple other things because we talked about sort of automating comps and discounts, but we can also automate discounts triggered by different things like the zip code on a patron's credit card, or we can do a discount via email domain is another kind of thing. So maybe you have like, a corporate sponsor, or if you're a college campus and you want faculty and staff discounts to kick in, we can actually tie it specifically to their email domain. As long as they're using an email address with that domain, the discount kicks in automatically for whatever you've set up. So again, it's things we can automate that are rules-based. We talked about discount by marketing list. When we're back in the position where we can start doing group sales again, which is going to be, again, a great day, we can automate group rates just based on the number of tickets in the cart. And you can say, well, X number of tickets constitutes a group. So maybe it's 10 or more or 20 or more. And you can do it with different levels too. So it might be, hey, if you buy 10 or more, you get X discount. Buy 20 or more and get a deeper discount. Those are all things that are kind of in there. And again, you can kind of eliminate the need for excess promo codes too. That's one of the nice things about the rules-based. I mean, a lot of times, depending on what system you're using, sometimes you have dozens, if not hundreds of promo codes for different specific types of discounts. And this way, with the rules-based stuff, we can eliminate the need for a lot of that setup and the tracking and the distribution of those codes too. So it's something where we just kind of clean that up and ideally make that easier on you. We can also track volunteer hours and types. So that's the kind of thing where you can go in and you can qualify your volunteers and assign them to different shifts and track their hours and run reports. And you can say, look, this volunteer is, someone who's new, so we don't necessarily want them handling cash. So they're not authorized to do this type of volunteer work, but they can be an usher and hand out programs and all that kind of good stuff. Again, it's something that we really built it with organizations that have kind of that dedicated volunteer coordinator sort of in-house in that type of a role. And that's another thing that's a free feature within our system. That's the thing. A lot of features in our system are completely free. We don't try to sort of like monetize every single thing you do on a day-to-day basis. So we give you a lot of free tools that are just built into the system. Additionally, there is a lightweight CRM that's in there. And I think a lot of times when people think CRM, their brain kind of defaults to something like Salesforce. And Salesforce just tends to be overkill for most arts organizations, and it's the kind of thing where we really strip it down and simplify it so that it's kind of an introductory CRM. And again, that's also a free tool that exists in our system. And down the road, we're going to be doing some more product integration because, as I mentioned, our parent company is Neon One. They are the parent company of Neon CRM, if you're familiar with that. That's kind of a sort of a Salesforce alternative for nonprofit organizations with great CRM tools. So moving forward in the future, we're going to have all the incredible ticketing capabilities of arts people with really a world-class CRM component behind it in the future. Currently, they're two separate products, but there are going to be some more development things towards that in the future. Moving forward here, I'm on my last slide. So this is like, hey, for more information, visit our website. You can contact me directly at this right here. And I want to go ahead and open it up. I saw that some questions were
John,
coming in.
yeah, John, here's your first question that came in is they know you don't hold money when there's refunds for ticket sales, but what about education? Like if a class had to be canceled or had to go from an in-person to a virtual?
Well, if it's an in-person to a virtual, you don't necessarily, that would depend on how you're structuring it, right? Like if you're going to do a different price point, you can do like a partial refund or something like that. And again, that all operates through the system. So if we've paid you out in advance on that, we would just deduct from future settlement any sort of changes with anything like that. And again, that's the nice thing where, we're in control of that. There's no sort of third party finagling on any of that. Does that answer the question appropriately?
I think it does.
Okay.
Class registration. Can you email specific sessions, classes by selecting those that are registered at each class or the season?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm looking at that on my screen here. So let's see here. In class registration, can you email from specific sessions classes by selecting those? Yeah. So you can pull lists of like buyers from different classes and things like that and send that out.
Yeah. The next one kind of goes on what you and I have been talking about here for our stuff. And it's like instead of class registration, grade level, instead of is it age only, or is there an option for grade level?
Right now, it's tied to age. We do it by birth date, but we've had a couple of organizations making requests about grade level type stuff. And I think that is something we're going to be able to actually roll out in the not too distant future on that.
Okay. Let's jump to somebody's asking that they have been looking at Arts People for a few years. And they haven't jumped on board because there wasn't a way to handle or track multi-year pledges for a capital campaign. Has pledge tracking been incorporated yet?
Unfortunately, no, it has not. Thank you, anonymous attendee. So yeah, that's something where unfortunately that is something that is still a missing piece, but that is coming as we do more of that Neon CRM integration. That's going to give us more leeway with something like that. Wait. I see a question from Luke Rawls. What's up, Luke? I emailed you the pricing structure after we did our demo, so you should have that. But the way that we operate is it's on a per ticket fee basis. Right now during COVID, we're deviating from what we've done in the past because in the past, our revenue structure was really based on, fees on ticketed events happening all over the country. And I don't think I necessarily need to explain to everybody on this particular group how that's not really happening right now. So we do charge just a one-time setup fee to get you in the door. And that's really to cover our staff time. And then moving forward, we give you 3 different per ticket fee options. And we want you to make a decision kind of based on the buying pattern of your audience. And I don't want to go into too much detail about pricing right here, but essentially we do a flat rate per ticket online, a flat rate per ticket for box office, and you can kind of scale those fees up or down based on your audience. So for example, if you're an organization that's doing 60, 70, 80% of your ticket sales online, logically you would go with what we call option 1 pricing, where you're getting your lowest possible online rate. If you're an organization that's doing, more activity out of the box office, processing a lot of subscriptions or, a lot of walk-up sales or whatever it might be, we can move to different options where we drop down that box office fee and we bump up the online fee a little bit to balance that out. And again, your only cost outside of that is credit card processing, and we don't charge for comps.
Why don't you jump to the one of what's the top headache that, when you're trying to do the financial integration and reporting?
That's a good question. And as far as the top headache with something like that for financial integration reporting, I think for us, it's a little unique because prior to us being acquired by Neon last year, our reporting structure was a little bit different on the financial end. And I think that some clients who had been with us previously and made that transition had to sort of adjust to a lot of things. If you came on after the Neon acquisition, it's been really smooth. But I think, that really does come down to the specifics of your organization. One of the things that I really appreciate that we can do is when you're setting up events and you're setting up your fundraising activities and all that stuff on the back end of the system, there are fields where you can plug in things like GL numbers and things like that. So if you're a bookkeeper who uses GL numbers in QuickBooks or whatever your accounting software might be, when you pull reports from our system, and any report you can pull can be downloaded as a CSV file or anything like that. So you can actually tie that into the GL numbers within your accounting software, and usually makes it a little bit smoother of an import, because Excel is kind of the universal language for for any kind of import into accounting software, generally speaking. So I think, yeah, a lot of, as far as, headaches, it really, sometimes you end up with an organization who's done something really unique with their subscription structure or something that's a little bit out of the ordinary. And, every once in a while we run into something that is just, it's a little tricky in terms of how you set it up. The nice thing is we have the flexibility to accommodate that so that the money all works out appropriately. But sometimes it might take an extra step on the back end to really understand the reporting. But again, that's sort of a really situational thing. But I really appreciate the question there from the CFO there.
Someone's asking about would arts people be able to have the opportunity for people to donate part of their tickets to good causes?
The way it's an interesting question. It's not something where we have like a third party sort of donation line set up. Right now, the way our fundraising structure, it's really about donating to the organization itself. So we don't currently have anything where you can sort of, at least, not automatically through our system. Now, if a client said, oh, we want to set something up and we have like a specific appeal where you're donating to us, but we're going to reroute that donation to a good cause, that's something we can do. You'd have to do some manual work on that. It's not automated on our end, but that is something that could technically be done, but it's not something that's kind of a default setting, so to speak. And I actually didn't know Brown Paper was doing that. That's good to know. They need to put some good back into the world, so that's good to know.
Let's jump back. Are your fees per class or session in your class registration?
So the way that works, it's per registration. So it's basically like, it's the same way we price it. So it's a per ticket or a per registration fee for that, as far as like the register goes. So it's effectively a per ticket fee applied every time you register for a class. Good question.
Yeah. And while we're in that, the reports for donations and education, are they the same as your tickets in box office, or what's the variance there?
Hold on, I want to make sure I can see that question. Oh, here is that's the are the reports for donations and education as good as the ones for ticket sale box office, i.e. can I see notes? Okay, this is a great question. I love this. So the nice thing, I talked about how we can do some of the custom report capabilities, and it's the same suite of reports as far as like, box office ticket sales, class reg, and there's a lot of sort of custom fields that you can pull and plug in. I think the notes, I will tell you, the notes don't necessarily live on all the reports, but that's really easily viewable on like a patron account level. But yeah, generally speaking, I mean, I think that I would say there's more reports around ticket sales box office, just because there's more things you can do in ticket sales box office than necessarily in class reg. But I think they're equally as good, with the caveat being there are more reports geared around ticket sales and fundraising than there are for class reg.
Okay. Got a couple more questions. Why don't you jump back up to the comparison for fundraising capabilities compared to DMS like Network for Good?
And I'll be honest, I'm not an expert on Network for Good, so I don't feel like I'm necessarily going to speak with a certain level of expertise about their product. But what I can say is that, our system, again, it really is built around arts organizations, whereas Network for Good is more of a generalist on the donation front, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I think the benefit of using our fundraising platform, of course, is that it's integrated with ticketing and database and everything else, whereas in Network for Good, you're going to have, a different set of reports. You're going to have another piece of software that you have to maintain. I'm sure there are some bits of functionality within Network for Good that we don't have. And I say that more because Network for Good is a standalone fundraising system. So they're going to build everything, specifically around fundraising, right? With us, it's ticketing, fundraising, class reg as kind of an all-in-one. So Network for Good, for lack of a better term, is more of like a niche fundraising in terms of, just being specifically for fundraising. So I'm sure there's some features that they have that we don't, but I couldn't necessarily speak specifically to what those are because I'm not an expert on specifically Network for Good.
And then the last couple questions here, John. Discount codes for classes. Do you have a way to apply those? And that's a really good question. And then they're also asking about the fee per registration, such as if you had 5 classes, is it 5 separate fees? So those.
Okay, so I see these questions are both from the same person. So thank you, Jesse, for those questions. Let me start with the discount. Yeah, I mean, that's the nice thing about promo codes is they can be used as like, basically a form of scholarship for classes or a tuition break, and it's really easy to do those. And you can basically tell if you have I'm just going to use a family as an example. So let's say a family, you know that they get X discount. You can basically create a promo code in the system that's unique to them. They use it, they get their discount across the board. That's really easy to manage and facilitate. We do the fees on a per class basis. So it's 5 classes. Yes, it is. It would be the same thing if you're buying, 5 different events. You'd have per ticket fee on 5 different events. Same thing with 5 different classes.
Okay, I think that looks, I think we answered all the questions, John.
Woohoo!
That's really great. I want to thank John for coming on board with ACT today and sharing arts people and everything that they do. And I would suggest that if everyone has questions, John's information is still there up on the screen. Make sure you go ahead and get that down and contact him directly. I have worked with John one-on-one and is still working with him as we're progressing with our ticketing issues. And I have to say that every question I have asked has been answered, and I'm very pleased to be able to help John present this today. I just want to say thank you to everyone for attending. And what do we have? The question I have probably for Jill or Karen, if they want to hop back in, is what's up next for ACT? What's our next seminar or webinar that we will be presenting?
Well, I believe we have one coming up tomorrow, Thursday. And I can't even tell you what it is, but if you go to our website, AACT.org, look at webinars, and there are a bunch coming up both tomorrow and next week and beyond, all kinds of good stuff. Wonderful. And if you have been a member, we thank you for your membership. And if you have not, I hope you'll consider it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, everybody. And we hope you have a good afternoon.
Thank you for having me. And thank you so much, Mary Jo, for the kind words.
You bet. Talk to you later.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.